To what extent does self-hatred control the racial identity and self-esteem of Black people? Self-hatred has historically been one of the most destructive forces shaping the racial identity and self-esteem of Black people. While not universal to every individual, it has been a pervasive psychological effect of centuries of racism, colonization, and systemic oppression. The extent of its influence can be seen in several key areas. Number 1. First, let's start by recognizing the role played by the internalized racism. Many Black people have been exposed to messages, both overt and subtle, that devalue Blackness and elevate whiteness. These messages appear in education, media, advertising, and social norms. This can lead to internalized racism, where individuals unconsciously adopt prejudices against their own group, believing stereotypes or demeaning their own cultural traits, hair texture, skin tone, language, traditions. Number 2. This is where the conversation becomes important when we talk about the colorism and hierarchies within Black communities. Self-hatred often manifests as colorism, a preference for lighter skin within the Black community itself. This phenomenon stems from colonial and slavery-era hierarchies, where lighter-skinned Black people were often given privileges denied to darker-skinned people. Today, it can still influence beauty standards, dating choices, hiring decisions, and social status. Number 3. Let's talk in more detail about cultural alienation. In some cases, Black people may feel pressure to distance themselves from their own culture to be accepted in mainstream, often white-dominated, spaces. This alienation can show up as rejection of African or Afro-diasporic names, accents, hairstyles, or values in an attempt to blend in or avoid discrimination. Number 4. Let's take a closer look at the impact on self-esteem. When a person repeatedly receives the message that their racial identity is less than, it can lead to chronic low self-esteem, self-doubt, and a diminished sense of worth. Research shows that young Black children, for example, have historically associated lighter skin with good and darker skin with bad, as seen in the famous 1940s doll tests by psychologists Kenneth and Mamie Clark. This demonstrates how early self-hatred can form. Number 5. When resistance and healing comes, it is a topic we should know. Despite these pressures, many Black individuals and communities actively reject self-hatred and work to affirm their identity. Movements like Black is Beautiful, Afrocentric education, natural hair movements, and Black Lives Matter have been powerful counterforces. These movements encourage self-love, cultural pride, and collective healing, showing that self-hatred, while pervasive, is not inevitable. Number 6. To understand self-hatred, we must emphasize talking about it intergenerational transmission. Self-hatred can be passed down through families and institutions, not always as overt teaching but as subtle biases or anxieties. However, so can pride and resilience. Many Black families intentionally teach their children to value their heritage to counteract negative societal messages. Number 7. One behavior we can no longer hide and must address is when we talk about lack of internal self-control. Self-hatred does not control every Black person's self-image. Many people grow up with strong racial pride and confidence. But for those exposed to unchallenged racist messaging or lacking positive representation, it can shape major life decisions: who they date, how they present themselves, their career ambitions, and even their sense of belonging. Self-hatred can profoundly shape the racial identity and self-esteem of Black people, but it is neither universal nor permanent. Its influence reflects the depth of systemic racism rather than an inherent flaw in Black communities. Through education, representation, and cultural affirmation, its grip can be weakened and replaced with self-acceptance and collective pride. Let's go deeper into how self-hatred plays out and how it is resisted. Number 8. Now let's talk in more detail about media and beauty standards. One of the most powerful reinforcers of self-hatred is the global beauty industry. For decades, mainstream media upheld Eurocentric features, straight hair, light skin, narrow noses, as the ideal standard of beauty. Black people, especially women, often faced pressure to chemically straighten their hair, lighten their skin, or conform in other ways to these standards in order to be perceived as professional, attractive, or respectable. This creates an internal conflict. The natural body is devalued, while alteration toward whiteness is rewarded. Such pressures can severely affect confidence, especially during adolescence, when self-image is most fragile. Number 9. Let's take a closer look at the effects of the education and historical erasure. School systems in many countries have historically downplayed or erased the accomplishments of Black people, while emphasizing narratives of slavery and colonization. This skewed history can instill shame and inferiority rather than pride. When young Black students rarely see heroes, innovators, or intellectuals who look like them in textbooks, they may subconsciously internalize the idea that greatness is not for them. Conversely, when Black history is taught in its full depth, highlighting resilience, cultural richness, and global contributions, it fosters racial pride and resilience against self-hatred. Number 10. Economic structures and success. Capitalist societies often associate wealth and status with whiteness. Black people striving for upward mobility may feel pressure to abandon cultural markers of Blackness to gain access to opportunities. For some, making it means distancing from their community, which deepens the internal conflict between self-worth and racial identity. However, many successful Black leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals now intentionally reclaim their identity while excelling, sending a counter-message: success and Black pride can coexist. Number 11. A topic that we can stop overlooking is when we mention mental health consequences. Internalized self-hatred can manifest as anxiety, depression, or feelings of inadequacy. The stigma around mental health in many communities can make it harder to address these wounds openly. Yet, there is a growing movement of Black therapists, wellness advocates, and community leaders addressing the psychological scars of racism, offering healing spaces where self-acceptance can flourish. Number 12. Why don't we talk in more detail about resistance and reclamation? Despite centuries of oppressive conditioning, Black people have consistently built movements to resist self-hatred. The Harlem Renaissance, the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power movement, and today's global Afrocentric and Pan-African movements all reflect a deep push toward reclaiming dignity. Everyday acts of self-love, embracing natural hair, celebrating dark skin, speaking native dialects, or honoring African ancestry, are powerful rejections of internalized racism. Number 13. A topic that we can no longer hide is when we mention the collective pride as antidote. The antidote to self-hatred lies in collective affirmation. When Black communities create spaces that celebrate culture, art, and identity, individuals feel less isolated in their struggles. Music, literature, and visual art often serve as tools of liberation, reminding people of their shared heritage and strength. Pride, once nurtured, does more than heal individuals, it uplifts entire generations. In short, while self-hatred has undeniably shaped the identity and self-esteem of many Black people through systemic racism, its power is not absolute. Every act of cultural pride, historical truth-telling, and self-acceptance chips away at the narrative of inferiority. What emerges instead is a stronger sense of identity rooted in resilience, creativity, and survival. How self-hatred specifically shows up in relationships and family dynamic. That's a powerful angle to explore. Self-hatred doesn't only live in individuals, it often shows up in relationships and family life, shaping intimacy, parenting, and generational attitudes. Here's how. Number 14. To understand self-hatred, we must emphasize talking about it. Colorism in families. Many Black families have long histories of favoring lighter skin tones due to colonial legacies and systemic racism. Children with lighter skin or looser hair textures may be praised as beautiful, while darker-skinned children are teased, criticized, or considered less desirable. This creates deep divisions within families, breeding resentment and shaping children's self-esteem from a young age. Some grow up believing they must alter their appearance to be loved. Number 15. A topic that we can stop overlooking is when we mention preferences in dating. Internalized self-hatred can shape romantic choices. Some Black men and women may avoid dating partners who are darker-skinned or who have more African features, believing lighter-skinned or non-Black partners are better options. For men, this may appear as rejecting Black women in favor of women from other races due to stereotypes about Black women being difficult or less feminine. For women, this may appear as seeking validation by dating outside their race because they've been told Black men won't value them. These patterns are not always conscious, but they reveal how self-hatred seeps into love and intimacy. Number 16. Let's take a closer look at the effects of parenting messages. Parents, even with good intentions, may pass down self-hating attitudes. For example, encouraging children to stay out of the sun to avoid getting too dark. Criticizing natural hair and insisting it be straightened to appear respectable. Warning children about who to date to improve the bloodline, a direct legacy of colonial thinking. These subtle lessons, repeated over generations, normalize the idea that blackness is a flaw that must be corrected rather than embraced. Number 17. A topic that we can no longer hide and must address is when we talk about generational trauma. Families often inherit not just welfare culture, but also trauma. The shame and inferiority instilled by slavery, segregation, and colonial rule have been carried across generations. This trauma shows up as silence, anger, or emotional distance in family dynamics. Parents or grandparents who internalized racism may struggle to instill pride in their children because they themselves never healed. Number 18. A topic that we can no longer hide is when we mention the conflict in relationships. Couples may clash when one partner has internalized self-hatred more deeply than the other. For instance, a partner embarrassed by the other's natural hair, accent, or cultural habits. Tension when raising children, whether to affirm their Black identity or encourage assimilation. These conflicts reflect how systemic racism infiltrates even private spaces of love and family. Number 19. How the family dynamics are breaking the cycle. Despite these challenges, many Black families and couples are actively working to break the cycle. Parents now often teach children to love their natural skin and hair, celebrate Black role models, and take pride in their heritage. Couples may choose to affirm each other's Blackness, rejecting Eurocentric beauty and success standards. This intentional work helps heal generational wounds and prevents the transmission of self-hatred to the next generation. Finally, self-hatred in relationships and families can manifest through colorism, partner preferences, parenting practices, and intergenerational trauma. But by recognizing it, naming it, and intentionally teaching self-love, Black families are increasingly able to reclaim pride and protect the emotional health of future generations.